Before we dive in, if you are new here, welcome to Jays Nation News, the channel that gives you the real, unfiltered, dramatic, sometimes painful truth about your Toronto Blue Jays. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because what we are about to break down is one of the wildest, most chaotic, most soap opera-worthy stretches in recent Blue Jays memory. We are talking about a forearm that could break a fanbase's heart, a pitcher who came and went faster than a Toronto summer, and a rotation situation so fragile you are almost afraid to breathe near it. We are 10 games into 2026, and somehow it already feels like a disaster movie. So buckle up, Jays Nation. This is going to be a wild ride. Let's start with the headline that sent shockwaves through every Blue Jays group chat, every barbershop conversation, and every nervous refreshing of the injury feed on a Monday night. Max Scherzer, three-time Cy Young Award winner, future Hall of Famer, the man who stood on the mound in Game 7 of last year's World Series when everything was on the line, walked off the Rogers Center mound after just 2 innings against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the entire fanbase collectively held its breath. 2 innings. 36 pitches. And then nothing. The dugout swallowed him whole and he did not come back. Now, before panic sets in, and look, some panic is completely understandable here, let's talk about what we actually know, because the facts are both reassuring and terrifying at the same time, depending on which direction you tilt your head. The diagnosis is right forearm tendinitis. Manager John Schneider came out after the game and told reporters he is quite fairly confident that Scherzer will make his next start. And Scherzer himself? Mad Max was standing in front of those cameras looking utterly unbothered, telling reporters there is nothing major going on, that it just needed to be addressed, and that his mind is already on his next outing. Classic Scherzer. The man probably bleeds baseball seams. Here is the thing though, and this is where Jays fans need to pay very close attention. The team knew about this issue before the game even started. This was not something that snuck up on anybody in the 3rd inning. The Blue Jays training staff had been informed about the forearm soreness coming out of Scherzer's very first start of the season. In fact, Scherzer himself admitted he has been dealing with it for a couple of weeks, but it only recently started affecting him when he actually pitches. That is a crucial distinction. It is not that the arm is broken down or that something catastrophic happened Monday night. The plan going in was to be careful, explicit instructions according to Scherzer himself. You cannot hurt yourself, you cannot take a risk. And after 2 innings, when the forearm started talking, Scherzer and the training staff made the smart call and shut it down. Is that reassuring? On one level, absolutely. It shows a level of organizational awareness and caution that you want to see. It shows that Scherzer, at 41 years old, has the wisdom to protect the body that still has meaningful baseball left in it. It shows Schneider is not going to run his veterans into the ground in April. But on another level, and here is where Jays Nation needs to be brutally honest with itself, we have heard this story before. We have heard the words "it is not major and he will make his next start" from this very same organization about this very same pitcher. Cast your mind back to last season. Scherzer left his first start of the year to deal with something in his thumb that at the time was deemed fairly insignificant. The result? He missed time until July. 3 months of the regular season, gone, before Mad Max was back on the mound doing what Mad Max does. MLB insider Ken Rosenthal said the quiet part loudly on a recent podcast appearance, and his words are worth sitting with. If Max Scherzer misses any length of time, or is not the same pitcher for a period of time, it is not a great situation for the Blue Jays. That is the understatement of the entire young season. Scherzer is not just a pitcher on this roster. He is a symbol. He is the thread that ties last year's magical World Series run to whatever this 2026 team is trying to become. Losing him, even for a few weeks, in the context of everything else going wrong right now is not just a rotation problem. It is a morale problem. It is an identity problem. And what is everything else going wrong, you ask? Oh, where do we even begin? Jose Barrios? Injured list. Trey Yesevich? Injured list. Shane Bieber? Injured list. Bowden Francis, who would literally be a starter right now if not for Tommy John surgery, also on the injured list. Cody Ponce lasted exactly 1 start before suffering a knee injury that eventually required surgery, putting him on the 60-day injured list. Alejandro Kirk, the catcher who was supposed to anchor this offense, is heading into hand surgery after a foul ball incident. Addison Barger, the right fielder who was a key piece of last year's run, did not even start against the Dodgers because of bilateral ankle discomfort, both ankles, because apparently that is just how 2026 has decided to greet the Toronto Blue Jays. And to top it all off, a flu bug has been making its way through the entire clubhouse, turning what should be a competitive big league dugout into something resembling a walk-in clinic. We are 10 games into the season. 10 games. And this team has already burned through pitchers at a pace that would make a general manager sweat through his shirt. The Blue Jays have used 18 different pitchers through those first 10 games, including 9 relievers across just 3 games from Saturday through Monday, tying the franchise record across the first 10 games of a campaign. The bullpen has been asked to cover innings that starters should be covering, and the math simply does not work. When your starting rotation cannot consistently get you into the 5th or 6th inning, your relievers are pitching every single night. When they are pitching every single night, they get tired. When they get tired, they get wild. When they get wild, you give up 14 runs to the Dodgers in front of your home crowd in a World Series rematch that was supposed to feel electric and instead felt like a funeral. The 14-2 loss to Los Angeles was brutal in every sense of the word. It was the Blue Jays' 5th consecutive defeat, their 6th loss in 7 games, and it came against the 2-time reigning World Series champions, the same team Toronto faced last October in one of the most dramatic fall classics in recent memory. That Game 7 win last year feels like it belongs to a completely different universe right now. Because on Monday night at Rogers Center, there was no drama, no comeback, no late-inning magic. Just a gassed bullpen, a hobbled rotation, and a scoreboard that read like something went very, very wrong. After Scherzer exited, left-hander Josh Fleming, who had literally just been selected from AAA Buffalo earlier that same day, came in to cover the 3rd inning. Then Joe Mantiply. Then Tommy Nance. Then Spencer Miles. And then, and this is the part that hurts to even type, Tyler Heineman, the Blue Jays' backup catcher, took the mound in the 9th inning. The catcher. Pitching. In a major league game. For the 2nd time this season. In the first 10 games. That is not just a bad night. That is a team running on fumes, throwing bodies at a problem and hoping something, anything, holds together long enough to matter. Now let us talk about the Austin Voth situation because this story deserves its own chapter, its own dramatic music sting, and honestly, maybe its own documentary. Austin Voth is 33 years old. He is a veteran right-hander with a career that has taken him from the Washington Nationals to the Baltimore Orioles to the Seattle Mariners and then, in 2025, all the way to Japan's Nippon Professional Baseball League. He came back stateside this offseason, signed a minor league deal with Toronto, and was working his way back through the system when the phone rang. On Sunday, April 5th, the Blue Jays called Voth up from AAA Buffalo. Emergency call-up. The rotation was in shambles, Eric Lauer was sick, and they needed a body who could eat some innings. Voth got the call, packed his bag, drove to the ballpark, and did exactly what was asked of him. He came into Sunday's game against the Chicago White Sox in the 3rd inning, with no outs and a runner on first, one of the hardest situations you can walk into as a pitcher, and worked 2 2/3 innings, giving up 1 earned run on 3 hits and a walk while striking out 1. Was it dazzling? Was it exactly what a depth piece is supposed to provide in a crisis? Absolutely yes. And then Monday morning came. Before a single pitch had been thrown against the Dodgers, before Voth had even had a full 24 hours to exhale after his big league appearance, the Blue Jays sent out a roster move announcement. Right-hander Austin Voth, designated for assignment. The corresponding move? Josh Fleming selected to the Major League roster. Just like that. 1 appearance, 2 2/3 innings, a flight from Buffalo that probably cost more than the time he spent on the active roster, and Voth was gone. Is it cruel? Without question. The guy spent a year playing baseball in Japan, came back to the States hungry for another shot, got it, performed adequately, and was handed a pink slip before his locker was even fully unpacked. But here is the cold, merciless reality of modern baseball that every fan needs to understand. Voth has more than 5 years of service time. That means the Blue Jays could not simply option him back to Buffalo without his consent. He would have had to agree to go back down to the minors, and that was a conversation that was not going to happen at his age and career stage. So once Toronto needed a different arm, once they decided Fleming's left-handedness gave them something more useful for the specific matchups they were facing, Voth's spot became untenable. The math was cold, but the math was the math. What happened next added one final chapter to the Voth saga. He was placed on waivers. No team in Major League Baseball claimed him. He cleared waivers and, as of this week, exercised his right to elect free agency. That is the full arc of Austin Voth's time with the Toronto Blue Jays. Called up Sunday, appeared Monday, designated for assignment Monday, cleared waivers Thursday, gone by Friday. His entire Blue Jays career fits inside a single work week with room to spare. Welcome to the big leagues in 2026, where roster management moves at the speed of a text message and sentimentality is a luxury no team can afford. Josh Fleming, the man who replaced him, did not fare much better in his actual appearance. Coming into an already disastrous game against the Dodgers, Fleming surrendered 4 earned runs across 3 innings, ending the night with a 12.00 ERA and a scoreline that nobody wants to remember. And then just days later, Fleming himself was designated for assignment when the Blue Jays recalled veteran left-hander Patrick Corbin, who had been working his way back through the minors after signing a 1-year, $1 million deal this offseason. Fleming too cleared waivers and elected free agency. 2 pitchers, cycled through in a matter of days, both gone, both now shopping themselves to whoever will have them. The Blue Jays bullpen door has been spinning like a revolving door at a busy hotel lobby, and nobody is quite sure who is going to be standing behind it next. So where does all of this leave the Toronto Blue Jays right now? Let us be real for a moment. This team is sitting at 4-7, they have lost 5 consecutive games, they just got blown out by 12 runs in a World Series rematch on their home field, and their rotation looks like a hospital ward. The bullpen is exhausted. The offense has been inconsistent. Players who were supposed to build on last year's momentum have gone cold at the exact wrong time. And every day seems to bring a new injury update, a new DFA notice, a new depth arm being shuttled up from Buffalo only to be shuffled back out days later. But here is the thing. Here is the perspective that Jays Nation needs to cling to when everything feels like it is on fire. It is April. 10 games in. The season is 162 games long, and the teams that panic in April and make desperate decisions out of fear are the teams that regret it in August. The Blue Jays have the bones of a really good team underneath all of this chaos. Kevin Gausman has been outstanding. A 0.75 ERA through his early starts is the kind of number that makes opposing hitters want to call in sick. Dylan Case has also been solid, carrying a 2.79 ERA. When the cavalry comes back, when Berrios is healthy, when Yesevich finishes his rehab starts, when Bieber works his way back into his own version of spring training, this rotation has the potential to look very different from what we have seen in these brutal opening 10 games. The strategy, as Schneider himself has essentially outlined, is survival. Get through April healthy enough, or at least not totally destroyed, and then let the roster reveal its true identity once the bodies start returning. Patrick Corbin slots in as the emergency bridge starter, a 36-year-old veteran of 13 MLB seasons who brings experience if not guaranteed dominance. Adam Macko, the left-handed reliever with 4 scoreless AAA appearances this season, lurks as a potential depth option if the bullpen buckles further. The off days on the schedule provide some breathing room for arms to recover. And Scherzer, assuming the forearm cooperates, assuming the veteran's famous competitiveness and the team's smart management of his workload hold together, is projected to take the mound against the Minnesota Twins on Sunday, April 12th. That start will tell us an enormous amount about where this rotation stands. Because if Scherzer goes out there on Sunday and looks like the pitcher who dominated the Rockies in his season opener, 6 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts, touching 93 miles per hour on his fastball, then the narrative shifts. The panic subsides. The rotation wobbles but stays standing. But if the forearm flares up again, if his velocity dips back into the low 90s like it did against the Dodgers when the tendinitis was clearly affecting his mechanics, if he cannot get through 5 innings of work, then this organization faces a genuinely scary few weeks. then we are talking about a sixth injured starter, a bullpen that has already been pushed to its absolute limits, and a stretch of schedule that includes serious competition without any margin for error. The Minnesota Twins series is exactly the reset this team needs and exactly the test it cannot afford to fail. Home games. Familiar surroundings. A chance to wash the taste of that 14-2 humiliation out of their mouths and remind themselves, and the rest of the American League, that the team that went to Game 7 of the World Series less than a year ago is still in here somewhere, underneath all the injury reports and DFA notices and emergency bullpen calls. Every player on that roster knows the stakes. Every member of Jays Nation knows the stakes. Schneider knows the stakes. And based on everything he has said publicly this week, the quiet confidence, the measured optimism about Scherzer, the frank acknowledgement that this has been harder and earlier than anyone expected, it is clear that the manager is not rattled. He is adjusting, adapting, and making the cold-blooded roster decisions that modern baseball demands, even when those decisions mean a guy like Austin Voth packs his bag after 24 hours and wonders what just happened. Survival mode is real. It is not pretty. It involves catchers pitching in the ninth inning and depth arms flying in from Buffalo and veterans getting DFA'd before their uniforms are dry from the previous night's game. But survival mode, navigated smartly, can set you up for something beautiful later. The 2025 Blue Jays went through hard stretches and found a way to Game 7. This 2026 edition has not yet shown us who it truly is. We are still in the early pages of a very long story. Max Scherzer's forearm is the thermometer of this entire situation. If it holds, this team holds. If it does not, well, get ready for more frantic moves, more Buffalo shuttle runs, more nights where the scoreboard makes your stomach hurt. But this is baseball, and baseball has a way of humbling you in April and surprising you in October. The question is not whether the Blue Jays are in a crisis. They are. The question is whether this crisis becomes the kind of story they talk about in October, the adversity that forged a champion, or the kind they talk about as the moment everything fell apart. Right now, with Mad Max's arm as the last load-bearing wall, the entire structure of the 2026 season is holding its breath. We will find out a lot very soon. Keep your notifications on, Jays Nation. This story is moving fast and it is not slowing down. And if this breakdown gave you the full picture, if it helped you understand not just what happened but why it matters and what comes next, then do us one favor right now, hit that like button, drop a comment below telling us whether you trust Schneider to navigate this rotation crisis, and subscribe if you have not already. We are on the road to 5,000 subscribers and every single one of you is what keeps this channel alive. Turn on the bell, stay locked in, and let's get through this together. Because Jays Nation does not panic. Jays Nation watches, analyzes, and believes, even when the injury report reads like a horror movie. See you in the next one.